It is out. We now know the road to the Super Bowl for your Minnesota Vikings, and it involves stops in Seattle, Chicago, Los Angeles, London, Dallas, and Dublin. It is going to be quite the adventure for Justin Jefferson and J.J. McCarthy. And to break it all down with us is Vikings radio analyst Peter Bursich. And Peter, great to see you, and happy schedule release day. I'm sure you celebrate this.
Yeah, no one does it quite like the NFL, do they? I mean, they make a big deal now out of the schedule release, which is amazing. But you know, they've been trickling it out, building up the excitement, for tonight's release, and it's good. At least we know who we're going to play. We have no idea who's going to be healthy at the time when we play these teams, but
Correct.
For now, we kind of got it figured out.
All right, quite the travel for you and the Vikings. Does this seem excessive with the week overseas? You go to Seattle, you go to Dallas. You heard me mention some of the stops that this team will be at this year. Does it seem more egregious than other seasons?
I don't know. I don't think so. I look at I saw some information on number of miles that are going to be traveled this year by teams, and we were kind of somewhere in the middle.
Oh, okay.
So it's not like we're going to be way on the side where we're traveling quite a bit. We do have quite a number of primetime games though this year. I think 3 of them are going to be on the road, so that kind of stands out. But from just a pure travel standpoint, it could be a lot worse, I guess.
Right. I guess it's the quirkiness, right? The couple of primetime games, and then, of course, the overseas games are kicking off at 8:30 in the morning here, so a lot of things to deal with. But before we get into all the details, overall, the Vikings, according to how teams finished last year, have the 5th toughest schedule, tied with Green Bay. And the biggest reason is because this division was so good a year ago, and it appears the Lions, Bears, and Packers haven't taken much of a step back, if any. I mean, do you see any of these teams headed in the wrong direction at this point?
No, not really. I mean, the Packers are pretty much fielding, for the most part. I think they replaced one offensive lineman, but pretty close to the same team they did a year ago. I think the biggest changes happened in Chicago with Ben Johnson, etc. And we're going to see them first game Monday Night Football, which would be exciting. And then the question is going to be, can the Lions sustain what they have been doing without Coach Johnson and with some of the ads that they've had? But we'll see. We'll see how all that goes. But yeah, I think the NFC North is looking to repeat and put three teams into the playoffs again this year. I think it can very much happen.
All right, you already tipped it, so let's show everybody. The Vikings will open the season on Monday Night Football. The J.J. McCarthy era will start on one of the biggest stages in the NFL, Monday Night Football at Soldier Field against the Bears. Tough place for a kid to get his feet wet, don't you think?
Well, I mean, it'll be outside, and the Bears fans will be as fired up as they've been in quite some time. With the new look,
yes,
that they have with Ben Johnson, and what's that going to mean for the offense? On the good side, the Vikings have some familiarity with what Ben Johnson wants to do on offense. How exactly he's going to do it, it's yet to be seen. But you're not going to have any film on them. You're not going to know anything that they like to do or who they like to put where. So for a young quarterback, that'll be a pretty good opener. It'll be a tough opener for him.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I mean, here you start on Monday Night Football. Granted, it's not as big as Sunday Night Football is, but still, that's a very tough night game, all jitters all day. That's going to be a lot of pressure on McCarthy.
Well, he better get used to it, right? I mean, you're a starting quarterback in the NFL. You're on a team that's been in the playoffs 2 out of the last 3 years. Going into the season, you're really the only question mark on this team. 2 offensive linemen you brought in are veterans. So, yeah, it's kind of
baptism
under fire, if you will, in that regard, and he's going to have to get used to it.
Yes,
if he's going to want to be a good quarterback in his league, you better get used to it real quickly.
Yeah, and the spotlight will not go away for him in week 2 because the Vikings are right back in the national spotlight again. The home opener will take place on Sunday Night Football when they host the Atlanta Falcons. Falcons were finished 500 a year ago, so it'll be kind of interesting to see what they decide to do. I think they've put Cousins and decided that they've moved on from that, so maybe there'll be a better overall football team because they had good parts to their team a year ago, right, Pete?
Yeah, they did, and obviously with the young quarterback going, he hasn't really completed his first 16 games, so he's still kind of a first-year guy. Atlanta ran the ball against us real well last year, so I think that's kind of the first game where we're going to see if these changes that we've made at defensive line are going to pay off in the running game, especially. So. It's kind of all these non-divisional games have become not must win, but they're games that you're really going to have to do everything you can to win. You at least you're not playing Sunday at noon. You get a little bit more time to get your legs underneath you after a short week.
All right, it's 2 straight weeks at US Bank Stadium, with then the Vikings in week 3 hosting the Cincinnati Bengals. That's a noon kickoff. Plenty of firepower will be on the field when Joe Burrow and the guys roll into town.
Yeah, and you take a look at the schedule. I think that's one thing to keep in mind as you're looking through these games. Are the really good or the elite, if you want to call them, quarterbacks that we play against throughout the year, especially the non-divisional ones. You want to play those guys at home at US Bank Stadium. We have the crowd noise. I think that levels the playing field quite a bit, especially against a guy like a Burrow. Helps our defensive line. Not having to play them in their place, I think makes a huge difference in that regard. So it's good that we're playing Cincinnati at home.
All right, now comes the international tour. The odyssey begins for the Vikings as they become the first ever NFL team to play back-to-back games overseas, first in Dublin, then in London. The first will be in Ireland against the Steelers and Mike Tomlin. Let's just take them one by one, and let's look at this situation against Pittsburgh. I want to backtrack, though. How important it is for the Vikings to come out of the gate and get some wins under their belt before they go across the pond?
Yeah, you're going to want. It's important to get him at any time.
True.
I just think the reality of the situation is going to be this year more so than we've seen the last couple years. To be playing your best football in December, right? Carrying that momentum. You have a first-year quarterback. He's not a rookie technically, but you still have a young quarterback. There's going to be some ups and downs early on in the season. So, any win you can get early is a benefit, but don't be upset or shocked or surprised or go in the tank if offensively things start slowly, because like I said, you got yourself a brand new quarterback running the system. So. So any win that you can get early is going to help. It's gonna you're gonna be biting your nails toward the end of the season, and that's probably the way it's going to be. I mean, that's for the Vikings this year. How you end it, in December is going to be a lot more important than how you begin it, because your quarterback should be improving week in and week out. So by the end of the season, he should be looking like a different guy, so to speak.
Yeah, but Viking fans, Pete, if they're 1-2 or the worst 0-3 going overseas, I mean, they wouldn't panic at all about a slow start. they would be so patient with the Vikings to straighten this out, right?
Well, I know. I mean, we won 14 regular season games last year, and I would trade 14 wins in a regular season for one playoff victory. You still had to play on the road, you know what I mean? So it's like, unless you win the division, you're going to be playing on the road, and the rest of it is really more just comes down to, are you playing your best football in December, right? It doesn't. You don't want to wear yourself out in the regular season, so to speak. Right? We've kind of figured that out. We've had 2 out of 3 seasons with 13 plus wins. We just got to find a way to carry that momentum into the postseason. So, are we going to put up 14 again this year? It'd be with a young quarterback, that'd be, almost miraculous.
Correct. All right. About this overseas odyssey, Vikings head coach Kevin O'Connell had a press conference this week talking about playing in overseas games, and for McCarthy, and he spun it this way. I'll let you listen to what he says about O'Connell and playing overseas games versus playing all his games here in the States.
Regards to the challenges for a rookie quarterback, I know, playing in Pittsburgh, playing in Cleveland, depending on when you go to those places, I would classify those as challenges right alongside, the international opportunities that we're going to have, both in Ireland and in the UK. So don't know. I'd be hard pressed to say that the atmospheres aren't going to be electric and outstanding, because they always are when we play overseas, but I do know those can be some hostile environments going on the road in the AFC North.
So that's kind of interesting. What he's saying is this may be a safer place for JJ to play as opposed to going to Pittsburgh, because the league could have put this game in November. They could have been in Cleveland in December, and he would have had to deal with those kind of conditions. He's fine with this. Do you agree with his thought process on this?
Yeah, I mean, I do, in regards to, it's going to be a great atmosphere and everything, but it's not going to be anywhere near as crazy or as loud as it would be had we had to play in Pittsburgh, especially early in the season, and then playing in Cleveland. And if they were back-to-back road games, no, it's not far to travel, but yeah, it still helps the road team more. Then it becomes just a long road trip. When you're the home team, you're actually losing that home field advantage and the crowd noise and everything else for a week. So as long as Coach O'Connell and JJ McCarthy aren't roaming the countryside looking for their ancestors, I think we'll be all right when we go to Ireland.
That's very true. All right, let's reveal more of the schedule here. Vikings staying overseas. They'll fly to London then to prepare to face the Cleveland Browns in Week 5. Browns, kind of a mess, at least at this time of year. Obviously, they'll have a month to try to straighten things out, but Kevin Stefanski's got a lot of work to do there with that Browns team.
Yeah, he does, and the quarterback position is obviously the big one.
Right.
So we'll see by then. Love to see the prop bet as to whether or not Shedeur will be the starter by that time, but we'll see. So again, going back to when do you want to play the really good quarterbacks? You want to play those guys at home. We're going to get that with Philly. We're going to get that with Cincinnati. Both those games are going to be at home. So those are, I think, much more of an advantage to have those types of matchups at home. Cleveland, yeah, it's kind of they're in a tough division as well, and it's going to be a bit of a crapshoot to see, what are they going to be doing by that time of the year.
All right, so then comes the bye. So what do you think about this whole scenario of playing 2 consecutive weeks on the road overseas? You're going to stay there for a week. Do you think this is the NFL testing out something else that, we may do more of this in the future? They want to see how teams react to this?
Yeah, it's kind of, I think Jacksonville they use Jacksonville as a guinea pig for this. Their owner has a lot of ties in Europe, obviously, so they have no problem with them staying out there back to back. It's going to be a little different, listening to O'Connell in his press conference. Team will probably leave on Thursday for the Sunday game in Ireland, and then after that game, go right over to London, and you'll actually have an entire week there, which. The Vikings did. It was first time or second time, I think we went over there, first or second time. But they're familiar with being back, being there a year ago. We're in the same spot out in Watford. We know where the soccer stadium is. Yeah. Everybody knows where all the restaurants are. So it won't be too disruptive. I mean. Yeah, some of the supercars that are left in the parking lot might need a jump on when we get back because we've been gone for so long. But I think this is kind of the way the league is going.
Yeah.
And
how about the bye being at week 6? Do you care?
Yeah.
Is it fine? Whatever.
There's never a bad time for the bye. Let's just put it that way, right? I mean, you can get nicked up early on in the season and be like, man, this bye is catching us at exactly the right time. What is good though is the bye comes before we play Philadelphia. I don't know when Philadelphia has their bye, but yeah, you'll be good and rested up by the time you come back, and then play a good Philadelphia team at home, and then turn around and go on the road and play the Chargers, not the Rams.
Right.
You got the Rams logo up on your graphic there.
No, we do not. We wouldn't do something like that.
That's the LA Rams.
Oh no.
We already had a wonderful Thursday night last year against them, so
yes.
I don't know if you're trying to recreate it or not.
Well, maybe.
Speaking of that, though,
all right.
I know going into the Detroit game, the final Detroit game last year, we were 0-5 on road games at night. So obviously with Detroit, with that game we were 0-6. If you want to throw in the playoff game, I mean that's kind of that just kind of makes you want to dig a little deeper and say, is there something there? But this team does have to figure out how to play on the road in prime time. At home hasn't been much of an issue, but on the road, these primetime games, these night games, have been a bit of an issue, for this club. Again, like I said, we're 0 for our last 6 regular season games on the road at night.
All right, so you've kind of jumped all around here, and rightfully so. You're the analyst. You can do whatever you'd want. But this stretch, to me, seems the most difficult. With Philadelphia, that's a noon kickoff here on Fox. After that, more primetime games. JJ will go out to L.A. And then that's a Thursday night football game. And then it's back against Detroit, the division champs. That's a noon game here on Fox 9. So that's, I think, is going to be one, you're coming off the bye. Then you got to try to figure this all out. And then you have these 3 opponents.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you concur?
Come back.
Do you like my analysis, or is my analysis very soft and sophomoric as usual?
No, not at all. I mean, you've got you got to beat the defending Super Bowl champions at home, and then on a short week go out to LA and beat a Chargers team. And as long as they don't have Keenan Allen, we might be all right. But then you saw the gauntlet they have to run through after that, and then you have Detroit, in Detroit, Baltimore, and
right.
Which the thing is, this is if this team makes it to the playoffs this year, you're facing so many of the solid teams, the good quality teams from a year ago. Right, the NFC East. We'll see how that. They had the Super Bowl champion with the Eagles, and then the AFC North, which is or AFC East, excuse me, is going to be it's a tough division too.
Right, and that's what you come right back with in Week 9. You get the Ravens at U.S. Bank Stadium. They were 12-5 a year ago, and they won that division. That, too, is a noon kickoff here on Fox. So that whole stretch there, I think that really could determine where this team goes. You've alluded to it, December football. You need to be playing your best at that point, and we'll get to that in a second. But you also cannot make December mean anything if you don't do anything through this stretch.
Right. No. Yeah. There's no question about that, and that's a tough game. That's a tough week. You're in Detroit, you're back home, and then you play the Ravens, and then you follow it up with 2 divisional games, which are going to be hugely important. So that stretch, that November is going to be a gauntlet. Right there, I'll tell you that. You have to find a way to make it through that, and then get yourself ready for December.
Yeah, because then you have the second encounter with the Bears, and then comes your favorite road trip of the year. I know that was the first thing you looked for to see when you were going. You were like, give me the schedule I want to see so I could spend as much time there. Like the Vikes are going to spend a week in London. I could see you spending a week in Green Bay, getting yourself set for that tilt with the Packers at Lambeau.
Yeah, you're a funny guy, aren't you? You're a funny guy. But it's kind of it's different that it's kind of like the Packers and the Bears have kind of flipped spots in that regard. But yeah, going on the road in November, the weather might be weather could still be or might be an issue by that time. But yet another outdoor football game, so a lot more games outside this season as well. Is part of it, but we'll have a much better idea of where this division sits and how all the teams are lining up by that time. But by that time we'll have been done with Detroit. So that's an interesting. You'll
be done with Chicago. You'll be done with Chicago. Detroit is the second to last game, the second encounter.
I'm sorry. Yes, you're right.
Yep.
We'll be done with Chicago by then.
Right, and again, obviously we're speculating, right? This is May. This is not. We're not talking a week out, and you can really size up to it. So everybody watching this, don't chop this up and send it to us in November and say, you said this was going to be a tough game. That's not what we're doing here. Well, we're just trying to get a flavor for this schedule.
Yeah, and Jim, I mean, the other part of it too is you got to be a little bit lucky every once in a while, right? You got to kind of hit certain teams at the exact right time. So injuries could come into play. Somebody, you might hit a couple teams with big injuries in big spots and get away with a couple of wins. So that part of it, I think, is much more a factor in all of this than whether it's home or it's away or early or late in the year.
Right. So then it's on the road again at Seattle, 3:00 start. The Vikings go to Seattle every year. It seems like they're in our division or something, and it always seems to be there. It's crazy. Is that truly? We hear your broadcast partner always say that that's the loudest stadium and one of the most difficult to play in. Have you noticed that as well?
Yeah, it is. It's a very difficult place to play. By that time of the year, the weather will probably have deteriorated. There's no place more beautiful to go to in August, September than Seattle. Right? You got all the fruit down there at the Pike Street Market. It's an unbelievably great place to play. But once you start getting in November and December, it's just rainy. We had success for the first time in as long as I could remember, going out there against Darnold. So we'll be seeing him again. But never an easy. There are no easy games in this league. Let's just put it that way. But be on the road and then have to play Seattle. You're right. We do seem to play them every year, right? It's like Atlanta coming to Minnesota. It seems like it's a thing. It's all of a sudden become a thing now.
Exactly.
But then, we'll see.
All right, here comes the month that you says matters the most, December, and the Vikings will be at home against Washington. Could be a tough challenge because they won 12 games a year ago. So they put it together last season with a rookie quarterback, and now he'll have that whole season under his belt. So the Commanders may be a difficult out here at US Bank Stadium.
Yeah, I mean, they're a team that's definitely on the rise. The quarterback is the way he finished last year, and we'll see how he carries it over into this year. But again, you're facing a team with potentially a very, very good quarterback again at home.
Right.
So
right.
That always helps. The home record this year I think it's going to be more critical than it's ever been, in the fact that the Vikings really, really, no matter who you play, you have to win at home. You got to take advantage of the crowd. You got to take advantage of your home field all throughout this year. And I personally, I know you're facing the best quarterbacks of this schedule at home, and I think that's again where you want to play against them.
Yep. Then it's back on the road for the last 2 times of the year. They go to Dallas to face the Cowboys. That's a Sunday night game, another primetime game. And then that's just before Christmas. And then you've got a situation where you play the Giants just before Christmas. That's got to be a tough game because the Giants, at least right now, look like they're a mess. And you've got the Christmas coming and you got all this stuff going on and you're on the road. So it could be a tough one to stay focused, perhaps, if the Vikings are rolling at that time of year.
All right. Or Dart could already have 4,000 yards through the air, right? But if you judging by what everybody in New York media has been saying.
Correct.
But again, outdoors, on the road in December, who knows what the weather could be like, out there. It's Dexter Lawrence. He's still playing for the Giants last time I checked. Abdul Carter, they just drafted. They still have Kayvon Thibodeau, if I remember correctly. So that defensive front is going to be something to be reckoned with, I'll tell you that.
And then we wrap it up with 2 division opponents to close it out, both at home, but a short time for the Vikings to get ready to take on Detroit. 3:30 on Christmas Day. That'll be a Netflix game, and then it closes out with the Green Bay Packers here at US Bank Stadium. And you can see this now. The NFL has found this formula where they jam division games at the end of the season, and they turn out to be meaning so much. We saw history last year with Detroit and the Vikings, 2 teams with ridiculous records meeting that late in the season. Never had happened before, and I can see that perhaps maybe the records won't be as gaudy as they were, but you can see that these games will mean the most of any of them, I think, of the last 2 here.
Yeah, and the other thing is getting them both at home, right? I mean,
that is a huge advantage.
That's a huge, that's a big advantage. You get a short week. That game against Detroit, I think, is going to matter a ton. And let's face it, that's the team that that we really need to figure out. Gibbs scored 5 of the 11 rushing touchdowns against this defense last year.
Yeah, I think so.
Gibbs.
Yep.
So you got to, number one, find a way to slow him down, and then on a short week nonetheless. So, which doesn't help with a young quarterback, right? Shorter weeks are tough on guys that are the more inexperienced you are. Then you get a little bit more prep for that final game, but you could be 2-3 games out of it going into those last 2 weeks of the season, and still have an opportunity to get yourself back in or to win the division. So the way it's a nice way to end the season.
Yeah, it is. It's a great way to save your season or to cement it. But there'll be so much hanging there. You can say, wow, we have a game lead on them. Yes, but you play them and they won the first. So all of a sudden they can flip the whole thing on you. So it should be a crazy ending. Before we go, Pete, let's share the preseason schedule. You'll be here on Fox 9 with a couple of those games. 2 of the 3 will be here. Week 1 against the Texans. That is on August 8th, a 3 o'clock kick and Fox 9. And then the second week of the preseason will also be at home against the Patriots on the 15th. That's a noon kickoff on Fox. And then you go on the road, the final preseason game, Saturday the 22nd. That game will be a nationally televised game. But I think you do have to like to set up for the season to have those first 2 at home and then go through the rigmarole of taking the team on the road at the end of training camp. Is that a good scenario you feel?
Yeah, it's again, you're working with a young quarterback, right? So you're going to have some odd scenarios earlier in the season, being on the road. So I think it's, I don't know. You take a look at this whole thing, and it's that middle. It's like the middle of that schedule is really the one. Once you get to Philadelphia, then you got Philly, Detroit, Baltimore, and and then 2 division games right there before you go to Seattle. I think that's kind of the rough spot. So it's right after the bye. Hopefully the team will be healthy, but that looks to me to be the toughest part. So if going on the road and staying in London for a week before your matchup against Cleveland is tough, then, good luck to you, because once you get back, right, and you take that week off, it is game on for the next 6-8 weeks.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy. Does it seem fair to you, this schedule? You don't see anything like, boy, the league really stuck it to O'Connell here. Look at, what are they doing this? It seems pretty fair.
Yeah.
I mean, it's tough. It's very difficult. But I don't see anything where, boy, you really kind of put them at a real disadvantage by doing this or that.
Right. In that regard, I do agree with you. Again, your 2 international games, those are your away games. You're going to have more away games this year than home games, right? So up until the last 2 weeks of the season, we'll only have 6 home games that whole entire season, and then you end it back to back at home, which is fine, which is great in that regard, because those are the 2 most important games of the year, right? Weeks 17 and 18.
Yep.
So good to have both division opponents. Good to have both those games at home. So yeah, it's interesting in the beginning, and I don't think the back-to-back road game. I think it's just kind of a signal to the rest of the league saying, hey, this is the way things are going to go. Next year it'll probably be an AFC team that faces that, just because you have one more road game. They'll have, this year the AFC has an extra home game, so next year they'll have an extra road game, and they'll probably be an AFC team that's over there for 2 games in a row. So it's just, again, you're gonna have to get used to it.
Yeah,
what'll be crazy is if they have one in Australia, right?
That's going to be a long flight with a lot of big people on an airplane. That you got to take 2 on that. Yeah, you have to take 2.
Yeah, well, you'd definitely have to take 2, but we're doing just fine in the airplanes. That's where the league has probably changed the most in that regard. Is that when you do fly internationally, or you're flying a long way, you got a big airplane, and so the flight itself is not that bad. I mean, at my rookie year, we went all the way out to Tokyo to play a preseason game. That was a joy.
I bet you enjoyed it. No grumbling at all from you. You would never have chirped up at all.
No.
Hey,
Never.
Tell people you've started a YouTube channel now that has you breaking down footage. And this is great for Viking fans because you really get into the weeds, right? When you're with me, I'm kind of glossing over stuff. You really drill down deep on a lot of the stuff, including how Brian Flores runs his defense. You carved up every sack from last season. Where can people find this stuff, Pete?
The name of the channel is called The Eye in the Sky, or you could just look up at Pete Bursich 56 on YouTube. Any follows would be greatly appreciated. The more I can build and grow this thing, the more access that I'll have with NFL films. The NFL is partnering with former players in certain areas, especially in social media. But I'm not interested in stock footage of guys getting off the buses. I want to get coaches film from like the '98 NFC Championship game or 2018, or that might still be out there. But there's a lot of great games that have been played in the last 30 seasons that I've been a part of in one way or another. That would just be, I think, a lot of fun to break down. But for fans, my thing is you always want to know why, right?
Yeah,
you always want to know why and how, and who's playing well, and you and I try to do that on Sunday nights and say, hey, this is what's going on. Oh yeah, are we gonna be doing our Sunday night bit when we're overseas? Can that be done? We have to find something. We have to fly you out to Europe.
I'm ready to go.
For us to do.
I would make that sacrifice. I would make that sacrifice to.
As long as they don't send Pierre out there.
No, Pierre.
Right.
Pierre, he doesn't have a real ID. He doesn't have a passport. He doesn't have I don't think he has his learner's permit yet. So I don't think he would be getting across the pond anytime soon. Pete.
Yeah, but.
Go ahead, take your last shot at him.
No. I was just going to say it's that's kind of the whole point of it. It's just it's to let the fans know really what's going on, what the why is, how this defense works, because you hear so much about it. So I'm starting off with a lot of defensive stuff. With the draft and with the rookies and all the film rooms. We just finished a film room episode with Coach O'Connell where he got a chance to talk, and we watched some film on some of the new players. So, hopefully we'll get back into last year, and then all summer long work on it, and during the season just give some highlights of the upcoming games and what to look for as a fan when you're watching the game at home.
All right. Once again, where can they find it?
It's called The Eye in the Sky.
Okay.
Or you can just look at Pete Bursich 56 up on YouTube.
All right, Pete, thank you so much. We appreciate
Thank you.
your help. Thank you for drilling down on this schedule, because this is what everybody's talking about. We appreciate you taking the time, and hopefully we can get together real soon once again.
Yeah.
Whenever Viking news breaks, you know what's going on. So we appreciate your help.
Let's just enjoy
tonight.
these Timberwolves while we can, right?
Exactly. Let's get it done in 5 tonight.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. For Pete Bursich,
All right, we'll see you.
I'm Jim Rich. We will see you, and we will see you later as well. That's a look at your Vikings 2025 schedule.